I said this before, but I'm actually a big Pokemon fan. I really enjoyed Scarlet and Violet a lot. A lot of people hate it because of the glitches, but they're mostly patched now. And I hope we get DLC soon because Scarlet and Violet was actually pretty great, and the new open world style was really cool, and I'm glad that they went that because Pokemon deserved it for a long time, but they couldn't. But they couldn't go open world because all the previous generation Nintendo handhelds gonna handle it. But anyway, I'm expecting Scarlet and Violet DLC later this year, but now how Nintendo and Game Freak always do generation traditions is they release the original version, then they do a third version or a sequel or DLC. Well, in this case, we're just getting DLC probably. Well, how it worked was for the first four generations we got these third versions, which were just upgraded versions as a single third version, and if Black and White, we got Black and White and Black and White 2, so we got a sequel instead, a full blown sequel. And then X and Y happened, we got nothing. The only other thing we had that generation was a Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which we'll talk about the remakes in a minute. And then Gen 7 had Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, so they got a pair of upgraded versions that also changed some things story-wise or added in new parts. Basically, the Persona 4 Golden or Persona 5 Royal of Pokemon, basically. And Sword and Shield just had DLC instead, which I definitely prefer over a third version. Now, Gen 3 onwards has also followed a tradition, and that is it's also remake the Pokemon game that came two console generations before that. So during Gen 3, we got Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, which was two generations after the Game Boy. Well, it was only two generations after Gen 1, but also two console generations after the Game Boy, because there was Game Boy Color, and then Game Boy Advance. And it was a remake of Red and Green, obviously. Even though Green was only in Japan, and we got Red and Blue instead, but they decided to do Red and Green. And then Gen 4 continued the trend where we got Heart Gold and Soul Silver, my favorite Pokemon game. It was a remake of Gold and Silver on the Game Boy Color. So the DS was two consoles after the Game Boy Color, and then Gen 5 didn't have a remake or anything. We got Black and White 1 and 2, but we didn't get a remake because it didn't really make sense because you can already play the Ruby and Sapphire on the DS. So we just got it during Gen 6 instead. So we never got Pokemon Z, unfortunately. But at least we got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which are remakes of Ruby and Sapphire, and the 3DS was two consoles after the Game Boy Advance. So we had GBA, DS, and 3DS. And then Gen 7 happened with Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. Now, Game Freak decided to be interesting this generation. Now, Game Freak stated that they like to surprise us, hence why Black and White got a sequel instead of Pokemon Gray. So after Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon, we got Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, except we got on the Switch instead for some reason, which was kind of it was a different kind of remake. It was like a reimagining remake of Yellow. It was good, but it had some flaws with it, like the motion controls and how you're forced to use Joy-Cons and everything. I thought that would be kind of dumb, but it was a nice little remake. Though I do prefer, I think I prefer over the original Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, but I probably prefer Fire Red and Leaf Green over it. So yeah. But similar deals as Gen 5, we didn't get Diamond and Pearl remake during Gen 7 because you can already play those games on the 3DS through backwards compatibility. Though we did get Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, and Gold, Silver, Crystal on the Virtual Console. Though for some reason, and I'm kind of surprised that we never got Gens 3, 4, and 5 on the Wii U Virtual Console because they had GBA and DS games on the Virtual Console there. And then And then after that, on the Switch, the Switch came around with Gen 8, we had Sword and Shield's DLC, and then Game Freak decided to surprise us again. Now they handed a Diamond and Pearl remake off to Ilka. Now Ilka recently released One Piece Odyssey, which is a One Piece RPG. But before that, Game Freak handed Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl to them. Now, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was something. Now, it was great, and it made me appreciate Gen 4 a lot more, because despite the original Diamond being the first Pokemon game I ever played, I was never really a big fan of it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's not great. Like it's very slow, and I don't know why. I just could never get into it. And Platinum was better, but I didn't finish Platinum. But maybe I will at some point. But I played Brilliant Diamond, and it was great. My thoughts on Gen 4 were much higher. Gen 4 grew on me more, even though it's my least favorite generation. But it's not without its issues. Because that big issue was the graphics. And here's the thing: the chibi style is fine, but it should have looked like Sword and Shield. I mean, all of your Pokemon remakes looked like the original game that they were released after. Like Fire Red and Leaf Green looks like Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. Heart Gold and Soul Silver looks like Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire looks like X and Y. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl does not look like Sword and Shield, and that was an issue for me. And there's also a big problem I have with it too, and that was the lack of Platinum content. That was just stupid, and it was just so stupid. And there was no reason for them to exclude the Platinum content. I mean, here's the thing. All three of the other Pokemon remakes had content of the third version of their original games. Now, Pokemon Yellow didn't really have, like, a huge amount of differences compared to Red and Blue. But it just has stuff like being able to get all three starters and that. So it wasn't really that big. And it was a similar case with Pokemon Crystal, except the plot focused more on Suicune. But you can still get Suicune in Heart Gold and Soul Silver and everything. And unlike all the other Pokemon games, you can actually get the opposite version Legendary in them. So that means that in Gold and Silver, as well as the remakes, that means that you could actually get Lugia in Gold and Ho-Oh in Silver, which is nice. And then with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they did a Delta episode post-game story to cover the Emerald content and stuff with Mega Rayquaza. And that was cool. Now the problem with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is that they relied too faithful on remaking the game. And that was an issue because they needed to look like Sword and Shield. I wouldn't say the graphics suck because they're fine chibi graphics, but they needed to make it look like Sword and Shield. Now the reason why Game Freak didn't make Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was because they went on to develop Legends Arceus instead, a prequel to it. And that game is kind of a precursor to Scarlet and Violet in terms of its open world feel, except the open world was expanded upon in Scarlet and Violet. The Legends Arceus is a very different kind of Pokemon game. Like all Pokemon games are about you going around the region and catching Pokemon and fighting gym leaders to become the very best like no one ever was. They're going through Victory Road and the Elite Four and the Champion and all that. Legends Arceus is not that. The game's instead set around the time when Pokemon were first discovered and stuff, and it goes more into the lore of Sinnoh and how Dialga and Palkia created space and time. So it's about you building up the Pokedex and discovering Pokemon, and so yeah, basically that. But its overall formula was continued in Scarlet and Violet. So, yeah. But anyway, back to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. A big issue for me was the lack of platinum content. That was just stupid. There was no reason for them to exclude the platinum content. They should have done a Delta episode like they did in. They should have done a Delta episode like they did with Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Well, they did something like that, but for Giratina. That was and. I see no reason why they wouldn't do it. It was just stupid. And yeah. But that's also what concerns me about a black and white remake. Now, don't get me wrong. I would actually really like to see a black and white remake. I mean, I love both black and white games. They're some of my favorite Pokemon games. In fact, Black and White 2, I say it is my second favorite Pokemon game. Like Black and White 2 is just a masterpiece and one of the best games on the DS. One of the best Pokemon games. But my biggest issue with the Black and White remake is how they're able to do two remakes, basically. No, don't get me wrong. I would really like to see a Black and White remake. And I think it's very likely to happen this generation, probably in 2024. Now, some people I've talked to on Discord say we won't get one until Gen 10 because all the Pokemon remakes from Heart Gold and Soul Silver onwards, minus Let's Go because that was a different kind of remake. They were the original generation doubled. So Gen 2, Gen 4, Gen 3, Gen 6, Gen 4, Gen 8. But to be fair, that's probably because, like I said, the remakes came 2 console generations after each other, which is probably why Heart Gold Soul Silver onwards was the original generation doubled. I don't think it's going to be that way going forward because up until Gen 4, there was only one Pokemon generation per console, but now it's 2 because we had Gen 4 and 5 on the DS, Gen 6 and 7 on the 3DS, and Gen 8 and 9 on the Switch. So I feel like we actually will get a Black and White remake this generation. My biggest concern is how it's even possible. See, remake it might be difficult because they would have to remake 2 games. Because the thing is that it's 2 games. They could bundle them so they have one version that has Pokemon Black and White 2 and Black 1 and White 2 or White and Black or White 1 and Black 2. But that'd be kind of difficult because what if someone wants to go for another version? Like, what if they want to explore the legendary that they didn't go with the first game? That's what I did. I played Pokemon White back in 2017, and then a few months later, I decided to go on the other side by exploring the Reshiram side, so I went for White 2. And also because I prefer White Kyurem over Black Kyurem. So, yeah. My biggest concern with the Black White remake is how it's even possible to do both. Now there is a solution to this, and that is maybe they could remake Black and White 1 in 2024, and then they could remake Black and White 2 a year later, and then they could have and then Gen 10 will happen in 2026, and probably on the next gen Nintendo console. I think that'd actually be a good way to do it. Now I wouldn't mind if Game Freak, actually, scratch that. I'm not sure how I would feel, though, if they bring Ilka back for any more Pokemon remakes. Because they were just too lazy with Diamond and Pearl. Diamond and Pearl was great, but it had some issues. Like the lack of platinum content and their graphical direction. I mean, the graphics were fine, but they didn't need to be chibi graphics. It should look like Sword and Shield, and a Black and White remake should look like Scarlet and Violet. And they made it too faithful. That was a problem. Like they could have added in some things. They could have added something similar to the Delta episode. Now, with excluding the Platinum, it was stupid. At least it was a third version of Diamond and Pearl, whereas Black White 2 is a full-on sequel, so they would have to either bundle the games, which would be kind of harder. or they would have to just do them a year apart, which I think is the most likely. But nonetheless, I really want to see a Black and White remake this generation. I think it's likely because. And once again, it will happen this generation, not Gen 10, because up until Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, it was the original generation doubled because it was only one Pokemon game per console at that point. Well, now it's 2 generations. So we're definitely getting Black and White remake this generation, and then X and Y next, and then Sun and Moon after, so on and so forth. So yeah. People complain that Scarlet and Violet was kind of unfinished. You can kind of tell because the customization was very lacking, and how you could only wear school uniforms was stupid. And the post game felt a bit light, but hopefully the DLC will fix that. So yeah, so I'm a bit worried for Black and White remake, but we'll like to see it because I think Black and White deserves a remake. Since we would follow the Pokemon remake trend. But I'm not sure how I feel about Ilka making it because they felt kind of lazy with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and how the heck are they gonna remake 2 games? But in fact, I would be very disappointed if they didn't remake Black and White 2. If they remake Black and White 1 and not include 2, I'm just not gonna buy it flat out. It would be stupid if they left out 2 entirely. It wouldn't make any sense. Also, here's a Pokemon hot take before we end off this video. I don't think we need another Let's Go or another Legends type game because I feel like those are one-off projects that relate to the generation that relate to the games they're based on. You see, Pokemon Yellow followed the partner dynamic, and that's what Let's Go was about. Let's Go was a reimagined remake of Yellow, and it followed the partner dynamic. Legends Arceus being a prequel to Diamond and Pearl was to continue the lore and explore things that the Diamond and Pearl established, like Dialga and Palkia being the creation of space and time. So it made sense there, and the other generations don't really have enough lore for a Legends prequel. I feel like it was a one-time thing because Diamond and Pearl are about creation and how Dialga and Palkia created the Pokemon world. But anyway, hopefully we got both Black and White 1 and 2 remade this during Gen 9, and hopefully Scarlet and Violet DLC this year. Anyway, see you guys next time. Agent S out.